All right, y'all. So we finally have Netease's big matchmaking EOM explanatory video that they said they were going to put out about 2 weeks ago. And there is a lot in here. They go over a lot. It's very transparent. I think they gave us a lot of information. I also think that a lot of it isn't going to matter because you know how people are, especially nowadays in this selective information world, where even though you might have things that prove your narrative or your theories wrong, if something goes against your belief system, it triggers what's called the backfire. The backfire phenomena, is that what it's called? I think it's something along those lines. Basically, it's this theory in psychology that when something goes so strongly against your core beliefs that it actually makes you double down and believe harder in what you thought before, even though what you just saw proves that what you believe in was wrong. So yeah, I know that this video seems like it should clear a lot of the air and maybe be a little bit more transparent, but you know there's going to be those people in the player base who are just going to see this video and literally just be like, yeah, that doesn't matter because they're just lying. Why would I believe them? I don't understand that kind of logic or thinking, because like, if this doesn't convince you that EOM doesn't exist or isn't real or isn't being used in the way that you think it's being used, then what would? You know what I mean? Like, what could possibly change your mind at this point, other than like you getting flown out to Netease and being able to visually see the matchmaking happen as it's happening, which obviously you're never going to get that opportunity. So I mean, if this doesn't convince you, I'm pretty sure that there's nothing that could be said that could convince you, and in that case I feel like you shouldn't even be part of the dialogue or the discussion over, you know, matchmaking, because you're not here to really have a discussion and, you know, talk about something. You're just here to either reaffirm your narrative or confirm it, or, you know what I mean, you're just there to basically say this is what I believe and this is true, without even being open to being wrong or potentially having, you know, evidence to the contrary of your beliefs prove you wrong. Anyways, that was a big long spiel that I didn't really mean to get into, but you know, this is a yap session, so with the yap sessions I don't really plan none of this. I just talk and sometimes I ramble. Yeah, so basically Netease put out their big EOMM video going over how points are assigned after matches and how players are actually matched with each other for the game. And I'm actually kind of really surprised that a lot of my theories about why ranked matchmaking in particular feels the way it does, and a lot of my theories on why games feel so inconsistent and why, you know, you get stomped or you do the stomping and there's no really in between gray area, a lot of the things that I have theorized on has actually been said in this video. It's been parroted by the developer Ziyang, and I don't know, for me it was a little reaffirming, because sometimes when I be speaking about things, I always have this little voice in the back of my head that says I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and that voice is probably right half of the time. But yeah, it was good to just see that a lot of my theories were actually could be true, or could be, you know, they were kind of confirmed and reaffirmed with Ziyang saying them in his own words. So we're gonna dive into this video. I don't know if they have uploaded this full video on YouTube yet. It is on the Rivals Discord, and I think it's also on the Twitter page. I'll try to put a link to one of those or both of those or whatever. I'll try to put a link to the original video so you can go watch the full thing, because I'm not going to be doing the full video coverage here. I'm just going to be covering like little snippets of it, because I think the first 1/3 of the video is not really worth covering and talking about. So with that said, we are going to get into it. I'm going to let some parts play out fully, and then I'll pause the video, give my thoughts, my whatever, my 2 cents, and we'll just take it from here. So let's get on into things. So yeah, this first half of the video, up until about I think like 6 minutes into the video, they're really just talking about like how performance, or how you get points after winning a match. Like what factors into that. And I mean, I feel like this is not really the part that anyone really cares about. No one was really complaining about how many points they do or don't get after a match. And so yeah, we're basically going to be starting right as he starts talking about the matchmaking, which is at about 6 minutes and 42 seconds into the video. So I'm gonna let this part play out, and it's just basically the basics of how the matchmaking system works, and I want everyone to hear this so that we can all be on the exact same page for the rest of this little small breakdown.
In Marvel Rivals, players are matched based on server node selection, team composition, competitive score. Once matchmaking starts, the system looks for opponents on your chosen server or servers. As wait time increases, the system gradually expands the search to higher and lower ranks, helping you get into a match promptly. The expansion is kept to prevent unbalanced games. Once we have 12 players within the acceptable rank range, the match is set. Teams are then arranged to minimize differences in average competitive scores. Team matchmaking is based on team size. For fairness, a 6-player team will only face another 6-player team. Finding an exact match can take time when taking into account all the factors, like competitive scores, server selection, etc. Since launch, 5-player teams have been disabled to protect solos. For other team size, the system opens up to more combinations as wait time increases. Take a 4-player team, for example. The first system tries to match with another 4-player team, but if none are promptly found, it will eventually expand to mixed teams like 4-1-1 versus 3-2-1. Longer waits means broader competitive scores ranges, and reaching the upper limit of the range can result in a difference in scores between the two teams. From the matchmaking results, this would appear to be an unbalanced battle. However, tightening the rules would mean much longer waits and a bad experience. This is the core challenge: balancing matchmaking quality and speed. Team kills make this speed versus quality trade-off more noticeable.
Alright, so this is actually something I touched on in my big matchmaking video that I put out like a month ago now. If you don't know, I did a video where I spent basically the entire season 2.0 just trying to test the matchmaking system in different ways using 2 separate accounts. A lot of people probably don't know that because my analytics tell me that I think only 3% of my subscribers watch my videos. So there's a 97% chance that you are not a subscriber. And if you're not, you should consider clicking subscribe. Help your boy get to 1,000 so I can get fully monetized this year. Anyways, I talked about this at the end of my EOMM video when I was doing my final thoughts, but yeah, basically stacking complicates matchmaking a lot because you can, if you're stacking with 3 people, the game is going to prioritize putting you in matches with another 3 stack because it's trying to make the game fair, right? So the game is of course going to prioritize putting you in lobbies with other stacks, but just because you're in a lobby with another stack, it doesn't necessarily mean that your 2 stacks are equal perfectly, right? Like you guys can all have the same or similar rankings, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody on that team is at the exact same like human skill level, right? Because the skill, like gold 2 is just a title, you know what I mean? Like everybody in gold 2 isn't at the exact same skill level, right? So yeah, I said this, I think something along these lines at the end of my EOMM video, where I was just like, yeah, stacking definitely complicates things because you're going to be put into matches with other stacks, but then it also complicates things because, like Ziyang said in the video, you can be in a 4 stack, but then you can get paired with, let's say, a 3 stack, a 2 stack, and then a one solo queuer, and now, you know, one team or the other might have an advantage over the other for several different reasons because there's so many different variables involved now in this one match. You're also not guaranteed to get stacked with equally played rolled stacks, if that makes sense. Like if you are in a 4 stack again, right? One of you is a Vanguard, 2 of you are DPS, and 1 of you is a support player. Now, you can go into a match with another 4 stack who are 2 support players and 2 Vanguard players. That already kind of throws off the equilibrium of the stacks because now you have the 4 stacks who have 2 different role compositions, and then you have 2 solo players in both of these teams who also have their own role preferences. So now this throws the whole thing out of whack, and this is how you end up with matches that are like 5 DPS and 1 freaking healer. So yeah, I've been saying this for a while now that I think stacks don't help the matchmaking system. Stacks make it incredibly more inconsistent. It also helps boost lower skilled players to higher ranks that they shouldn't be. And people are like, how did you even get to this rank, bro? And so yeah, you're gonna get a little example of that from Ziyang here. He's gonna explain it much better than I probably did. So I'm gonna let him give you the example of what I just explained to you guys, and then, you know, maybe the two-pronged spear of him explaining it to you from the developer side and me explaining it to you from an idiot side comes together to make the perfect little souffle of information for y'all.
To help you better understand how the matchmaking system works, here's an example scenario. Suppose player A teams up with player B and player C to cube for competitive. In this scenario, player A is diamond 1, player B is diamond 3, player C is platinum 1. The average rank of this 3-player team is around diamond 3. They select only the Oregon server node for matchmaking. Since there aren't enough teams of the same size and rank in the queue on this node, the matchmaking system gradually expands the search range as time passes. After 5 minutes, the system finds 9 more players who meet the criteria. These 9 players include another 3-player team with an average rank of platinum 1, a 2-player team with an average rank of diamond 2, and 4 solo players: player D, diamond 1, player E, diamond 2, player F, platinum 1, player G, diamond 2. To ensure fairness, the system first places the 2 3-person teams on opposite sides. Then, the remaining team compositions are Side A, 3-player team plus 2-player team plus 1 solo player. Side B, 3-player team plus 3 solo players. Now, the exact team split is determined by the solo players to make both sides' average ranks as close as possible. The fairest division is Side A, 3-player team, diamond 3 average, plus 2-player team, diamond 2 average, plus player F, platinum 1. Side B, 3-player team, platinum 1 average, plus player D, diamond 1, plus player E, diamond 2, plus player G, diamond 2. In this scenario, there are still notable rank gaps within each side. For example, Side A's player F, platinum 1, and Side B's player D, diamond 1, each have a 2 to 3 division differences from their teammates. This means there can be internal team imbalances. Assume once the match begins, the role selections are as follows. Side A, the 3-player team picks a vanguard player A, duelist player B, and strategist player C. The 2-player team chooses a vanguard and a duelist player F. A duelist main sticks with his preferred.
Just wanted to jump in quickly here to say that yeah, this is definitely how a lot of my lobbies look. And in fact, if this video comes out when I expect it to come out, there should be a video that I just uploaded a few hours ago about one of my first games of season 3, where we played an entire first round with 1 healer because nobody wanted to swap to a second healer, and I was the only tank. So yeah, I definitely feel the pain that Ziyang is explaining to us in this example. All right, let's get back to the lovely Ziyang.
Role instead of filling the missing strategist slot. To balance the team, the duelist player B from the 3-player team fills as a strategist. Side B, the 3-player team picks a vanguard, duelist, a strategist. Player D picks an additional strategist. Player E picks another vanguard. Player G picks another duelist. We believe that this is a situation many players have encountered before. In this case, Side B has a strategic advantage, as all 6 players are playing their main roles. On Side A, a duelist main is forced to fill as a strategist. And the lowest ranked player is also playing duelist, which may weaken the team's synergy.
All right, yeah, so, you know, not to beat a dead horse or anything, but people in stacks not being flexible, or being flexible but not being, you know, actually proficient in the role that they flex to, yeah, that's obviously going to be a big contributor in why games feel the way they feel. Basically, not being flexible is bad for the game. Confirmed. All right, now we're finally getting to the real meal of this whole video that they put out. EOMM. So in my video where I tested the matchmaking system, I named one of my accounts EOMM. So now whenever I say EOMM, I say EOMM and not EOMM. But yeah, we're just gonna go with it. EOMM. This is what they're about to talk about. This is why they made this video to begin with. And so yeah, let's just let Zuyang. I think it's Zuyang. Zuyang. I think I'm pretty sure I've heard him pronounce it Zuyang. So I'm gonna call him Zuyang. We're gonna let Zuyang say it best.
Recently, we have received a lot of feedback from the community, with many players believing that our matchmaking system employs EOMM, engagement optimized matchmaking. This would imply manipulating the matchmaking queue to keep players' win rates around 50%, ensuring they remain engaged in the game. We want to be clear. Marvel Rivals does not use EOMM. So, why do some matches feel uneven? Why do certain players encounter win or loss streaks? We would like to take this opportunity to provide some insights, hoping to clarify some of the confusion for everyone. In a competitive two-sided game, the fewer players on each side, the more accurately the competitive score reflects individual skill. However, as team size increases, this accuracy drops.
Holy you, Yevon. This is something I have been saying since I first heard about EOMM. Like, since I first started getting into like debates with people online and talking about it with people online, one of the biggest reasons I find the EOMM to be hard to believe, or at least, and this is, I have to clarify that I find EOMM hard to believe in the context that a lot of the player base believes it is, which is the player base believes that, a large portion of the player base believes that EOMM is literally fixing games, like making you lose a game. They're putting you in a game that it knows you're going to lose, or a game that you're like 90% supposed to lose. Like, that's how a lot of people talk about EOMM, as if it literally controls your game. It gives you people that it knows are going to throw the game. Like, that's how the community has been talking about it for a long time. And one of my biggest pushbacks to that whole narrative and that whole belief was that it's so freaking hard for any computer or anything in the world to predict human behavior so well that it could literally make you lose 7 games, 8 games in a row. You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard to predict one human's behavior, one human's reaction to something, even if you have data on their entire life. It's still really hard to predict what one human is going to do, because people are very inconsistent themselves. We change opinions based on who we are standing in front of at the current moment in time. So like, it's very hard to make a computer system and an algorithm that's going to be able to accurately predict how one person is going to react in a certain situation or certain situations, let alone having 12 different people that you now have to accurately predict are going to be, you know, really good, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's just incredibly hard to try to accurately predict how 12 different people playing across different spectrums of the country or the globe or wherever you're playing from is going to react at any one moment. So I mean, that was one of my biggest things. I'm like, I don't know if I can really believe EOMM is that domineering or that powerful in this matchmaking system. If it does exist, I would believe it does exist. I wouldn't be fully I wouldn't be surprised if it exists, but I would have a hard time at least believing that it has so much control over your matches.
Team size increases, this accuracy drops, since even if both teams have identical average scores, other factors like teamwork and coordination can sway the outcome. Additionally, because we don't lock roles, players might end up playing a role they are less comfortable with, which means they may not perform at their rank's full potential. Even if you are assigned your preferred role, playing a hero you are less skilled with can also affect your impact in the match.
And again, he basically brings up here not being flexible as a big crux on why games don't feel consistent or why it feels like your teammates are not as good as they should be for the rank they're in. It's either because they're not flexible, so they don't switch roles, so they don't switch characters, or they're not flexible, but they try to be flexible in an effort to help the team, and because they're playing an off role, they're of course not going to be as good, which again makes your team have a much lower chance of winning. And this is kind of literally something I tried testing in my EOMM video, and so many people got mad at me in the comments because I was testing for skill, right? I was testing to see does your skill at the game actually affect your win rate, or can you just climb regardless of how bad you are? And so on one account, I played heroes I was less skilled with, and on the other account, I played heroes I was skilled with. So I was trying to test to see if skill was a factor in, having consistent games, and so many people in the comments of that video were mad at me for that. They were like, why did you play different heroes? Why did you not play the same heroes on both accounts? And my whole thing was, I said in that video, I'm trying to test the skill level. I'm trying to test the skill gap. Does that have a factor, and how big is the factor, right? And so thank you again, Zuyang. This dev video affirmed a lot of the things that I had theorized about before I ever seen this video. And it was just really cathartic to watch this video and have some of my own thoughts and some of my own theories parroted back to me from the developer of the game.
Objectively, it's quite challenging to have an equal number of players across the three roles. To strike a balance between matchmaking speed and fairness, the competitive score ranges for each role would have to differ. Roles with fewer players would have lower competitive score thresholds, while roles with more players would require higher thresholds. This, in turn, will lead to greater variance in match quality. We are working to introduce more interesting vanguards and strategies in future updates to give players more choices, but these changes will take time to develop. We thank you for your patience.
And here, this is again another thing I have theorized is a problem with the game and why it doesn't feel so consistent, or it feels inconsistent, is because of the Vanguard Duelist Strategist split. There are way more DPS players than there are tanks or supports, and everybody wants to play a DPS. And in fact, if this video is coming out at the time I think it's supposed to be coming out, literally there should be a video on my page, on my channel, a couple hours ago, another Yap session actually, of me discussing my very first game, my very first ranked game in season 3. And for the first 3 minutes of the first round, we had one healer and I was the only tank. So we had essentially 4 DPS, 1 tank, and 1 healer. It wasn't until the second round where someone actually switched to healer and stayed on healer for the rest of the game that we ended up turning that game around. Because if that person didn't switch to healer, we would have lost. We massively got wiped the first round. Second round we came back pretty strong, and then third round we cleaned the floor. So clearly the DPS problem in the game is really affecting the balance and the consistency of matches, because everybody wants it to be a DPS player and not everybody can be a DPS player. That's the sad reality, but nobody cares. In video games, nobody cares about anybody but themselves. Now this is largely a Netease problem, because how could you release a game with different roles where everyone is supposed to play a specific role and you clearly need a certain, breakdown of roles? How could you release a game like that with literally double the DPS players? I think at launch there was 18 DPS, 9 tanks, and 7 healers. Of course there's going to be so many more DPS players when you hop on ranked, because there's so many more options to play. They should have cut the DPS in half, maybe a little bit more than half, 12 DPS at most, and then kept the Vanguard and Strategist numbers the same, and then release characters, and then release the rest of the DPS roster throughout the rest of the year. But I don't understand how these developers did not see this being a huge problem for the game in the ranked mode.
Statistically, win and loss streaks are a matter of probability. For example, if two sides are truly 50-50, over 3 games, the chance of 3 consecutive wins or losses is 12.5%. Over 10 games, the chance of 3 or more wins or losses in a row rises to 50%. So, over enough games, everyone will eventually experience win or loss streaks. For those interested, you can use tools to calculate the probability of achieving a streak, whether it's 5 consecutive wins or 5 consecutive losses.
Now, this stat actually makes a little bit of sense from my own personal experience, and I know that anecdotal experience doesn't really prove, or anecdotal evidence doesn't really prove anything, because that's, you know, the whole point of anecdotal evidence is just one person's story or a small group of stories that are not really based in statistics. But from what he just said, kind of fits my experience pretty well, because I don't play that many games per day because I'm really busy. So like usually during the week I'll play on weekdays I'll play like 3 or 4 games max a day, because I don't really have time to play more than that. But anytime I do have time to play more than that and I play for several hours, I definitely notice my matches, the quality of my matches going downhill. And so yeah, I could see how a lot of other players would think that the game is rigged against them, because there's probably a lot more players that play for multiple hours a day than there are that only play for a couple hours a day. And so you have a larger portion of the players playing for a longer amount of time, which then increases their chance of getting bad, inconsistent games. And then you get this whole population of players that just got it stuck in their head that the game is rigged against them.
For those interested, you can use tools to calculate the probability of achieving a streak, whether it's 5 consecutive wins or 5 consecutive losses.
Now this was an interesting thing, I think, for him to say, because it implies that you can actually maybe like kind of game hack the matchmaking system, which kind of does actually go against the point that I was trying to make in my EOMM video. I was trying to prove if you could or couldn't hack the system by, you know, logging off after 2 or 3 matches or whatever. And like from my experience, it didn't seem to do too much. But also it was really hard to get data on that, because you have to lose twice in a row consistently, and then you have to come back the next day consistently, right? And it's just kind of hard to do that without throwing your games on purpose. And I wasn't trying to throw my games, because I was trying to get as genuine data as possible. But yeah, this kind of just goes back to what I just said, where it's like, you know, it makes sense why a lot of people would believe in EOMM, because there's probably a lot more people who play the game for several hours at one time. And then what happens is all of those players, as they play longer and longer, they start to experience worse games, and then you get a higher population of people with these bad games because they're playing for longer and longer times. And then you build this community of people that are like, well, yeah, if you lost 7 games in a row, and he lost 7 games in a row, and she lost 7 games in a row, and everybody in this room lost 10 games in a row on average, that's gotta be, there's a pattern, you know what I mean? Like humans brains are made for picking up patterns and then making correlations with them. Whether those correlations are correct and accurate is a completely different story though. So it does make sense how there's such a large community of people who think the game is rigged against them, and why those people will never have their mind changed. It's because, you know, your reality or your belief system is very much rooted in your personal reality. So it's hard to kind of shake that out of someone's mind once they've already experienced something, and then they've had 10 other people experience the same thing. It confirms their bias, right? Now, I think this is the last little bit of the video that I have my 2 cents to put something in on. This is the last part of the video that I want to give my 2 cents on, basically.
Under different win rate scenarios over 10 matches. Of course, the game isn't pure math. Several in-game factors can increase the likelihood and impact of streaks, making these experiences feel more pronounced. For example, team average scores are rarely perfectly balanced, so actually win rates may not be exactly 50%. When queuing consecutively, you may face some of the same players in back-to-back games, which can carry over the outcome chance from previous matches. This is even more common in team matchmaking, where the pool of available combinations is smaller, especially during off-peak hours or in less populated regions. Even if the probability of a streak occurring is just 1%, Marvel Rivals' large player base means many will experience that.
But this is something, again, I say and I have said a lot since the beginning of this whole EOMM controversy and the kind of back and forth in the community. There are tons of factors that go into every single match that you play. You have 12 people, all at different personal skill levels, whether you guys are all in the same rank or not. Like I said earlier, it doesn't matter. You guys still have different skill levels within that rank. You guys all have different mental states at the time of playing. You guys all have different mental states in general. You guys all have different play styles, communication styles, hero selections, ages, etc., etc. There's just so many variables that it's really hard to pinpoint what exactly is causing your shitty games. And that's why I think a lot of the big, not even just the big content creators, a lot of people who don't believe in EOMM say that you are the only constant in all of your games, right? That doesn't mean that the matchmaking system isn't bad or that the matchmaking system doesn't need to be improved. It just means that the only control that you have in every single game you play is yourself. So that's the only thing you can fix. You can't fix how your teammates play. You can't fix how the matchmaking works. You can't do anything about those things. You can only do something about yourself. So you might as well focus on trying to make yourself a better player or the best player possible to give oh, just choked on some spit, to give yourself the best opportunity to win these games. Because yeah, the matchmaking system might be garbage and it is pretty bad. I fully agree that it's a bad system. I just don't think it's a system that's rigging games against you. So yeah, you need to kind of focus on yourself because that's the only thing you have control over. And that's really the main message a lot of people who say that mean when they say that, right? Because I see a lot of people who get mad at people when they say that, especially in my last video. A lot of the comments on my last video, people would be like, they would give me an anecdote. They'd be like, I lost 7 games in a row, and then I hopped on the next day and I lost 10 games in a row, and then I said screw this game and I went and I logged on my alt account. I went on my alt account and I won 5 games in a row. And then they'll be like, and I want you to tell me, how does that make sense? How can that not be EOMM? How? I think that you're wrong. And I'm just like, first of all, I can't explain that phenomenon to you. I don't know anything about you. I don't know you from a hole in the ground. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what mental state you were playing in the first day. I don't know what mental state you were playing in the second day. I don't know if maybe you were had a little bit of itis because you just had a turkey dinner or something. Like, I really don't know what was going on in your life. I also don't know anything about the 11 other people in your match. I don't know what rank you're in. I don't know anything about you. So I can't make a judgment call on why you lost 14 games in 2 days and then you hopped on your alt and you won 10 games. I don't know. I can't give you an answer because there are so many different variables and I don't even have half of the ones from your life, right? And I also want to point out that jumping onto an alt account and then winning a bunch and then losing a bunch on your main account, I feel like that also doesn't really prove EOMM, because personally for me, I know this is just a me thing, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but when I'm on my alt account, I just feel so much more cozy. I feel more secure. Like on my main account, I feel more stressed. I can't explain why. I mean, maybe it's because it's my main account. It has like my actual like username that I use for basically all of my social medias and stuff. Like that's like my real identity, right? So when I'm on my main account, I feel way more pressure to play well. I feel way more pressure to have a good like win rate or win-loss ratio or KDA or there's way more pressure when I'm playing on my main account. When I go on my alt account, I don't care. I don't care how much I lose. I don't care how bad I look. I really don't care, because that to me is like my my mask. That's like my internet mask. It's kind of like how people get on social media sites and they make burner accounts and then they go do awful things on their burner accounts. It's because that's a mask for them. They feel comfortable because it's not really traceable back to them. And so that's what I feel like is happening on alt accounts. You are both consciously and subconsciously more cozy on your alt account, so you're less stressed, you have less pressure, and you're probably subconsciously performing better without even realizing it. But again, I can't really prove any of that because that's all just conjecture, and that's just how I feel when I play on my alt account. I don't know if anyone else feels that way. So yeah, that would be my best answer to why do I win more on my alt account than on my main account. Because I don't know, your main account, you're more stressed, maybe not, I don't know. Sound off in the comments if you think that alt accounts are easier to win on because you're less stressed and main accounts are not because you're more stressed. Just let me know down below because I would love to know. But yeah, that is gonna do it for this one. I don't really know how long this is gonna come out in the edit. This is a long recording, as I can see right now on my editing software, so I'm hoping I can get this cut down a little shorter than what I recorded here. But you know what, it's fine. It's fine. If you don't want to watch a whole long video, I have shorter videos on my channel. Go check those out. I think you really should, because I'm really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers this year. Just that's such a small goal. It's such a small goal. And if every one person that watched my videos subscribed, I could get there in one video. Most of my videos make about 200 views. So I mean, I only need 250 views. Just consider clicking subscribe if you liked this video, or if you like any of my other videos. Yeah, but yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. I'm gonna get out of here. Let me know down below your comment. Let me know down below in the comments your theories, your feelings on EOMM. Do you still think EOMM is in the game? And I think my biggest question to anyone who still thinks EOMM is in the game and it's affecting your matches as heavily as a lot of people say it is, what would convince you otherwise? Like, I really want to know, because I'm really curious, what could the developers do to make people actually believe the game is not EOMM? It's a really good question, and it's fascinating to me to know. But yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. So y'all know what it is. Slap that like button if you liked the video, dislike if you did not like the video, and let me know why you hate me. And again, if you really liked the video, go on and slap that subscribe button, because I am aiming for 1,000 subscribers in 2025, and it would be great if you could help me get there. And until next time, I'll catch y'all later.